is Desiree Bader. I'm the owner of Mountain View Farm located in Lake Cowichan. Today we're going to be going over a few tips and tricks for all of you to make your winter care of your furry animals a lot easier. So let's jump into it. This is Rhapsody. She's my 25-year-old mare. She'll be 26 this year. She's going to be our model for today, and we're going to go over a little bit about hoof care and why it is so important over the winter to keep your horse's feet dry and healthy, because as the saying goes, no hoof, no horse. So with her, she does have some soundness issues. So over the course of looking at different methods and different techniques that we can use to help her be comfortable, we have found these new type of shoes. They're called duplos, and they're a composite material that is a polymer base. You can actually go on their website and they'll have a complete breakdown of what they are consisted of. They do have a steel spine in them along with toe clips, which makes it a lot easier and more stability for the shoe to actually stay on their feet. They are amazing for the snow. I find that they don't ball up, they don't slip as much, and they're actually really great for the summer, for all those people that are trail riding and worried about their horse's feet chipping up, or they want to try something other than steel shoes because they're worried about starting a fire out in the trail, and nobody wants to do that. So these are really great, and they work really well for her. Another thing that's very important is making sure that their feet stay nice and dry. They get at least 12 hours of time to dry. If they're oversaturated with moisture, can cause thrush issues, which is a bacterial which attacks their central and their lateral sulcus of their frog, which hurt. So these areas right here, see underneath, that's her frog. So anything that's along here, we want to make sure it's nice and clean, because if they get also lots of thrush, they can also cause abscesses, and that's not really good. It can cause lameness and for our horses to be very uncomfortable. So another thing that I find that is really important for our horses is to have a very dry place for them to stand. So whether that is nice dry bedding that we like to give them, some people like to use straw, some people even like to use stove pellets, which is a really good way to help draw the extra moisture that your horse's feet are retaining. Some people will half soak their stove pellets and also put a majority of them in dry. And as your horse walks in and out, you'll see the little pellets, they'll actually expand, which is showing you that it is taking some of the moisture out of your horse's feet. So one thing that is really important if your horse is blanketed through the winter or any of our wet months that we have, which are generally a lot, you always want to check your horse over every day. So that's pulling your blanket off, making sure that their coat is nice and shiny, that their legs are nice and tight, none of their ligaments or tendons are swollen, no heat in their feet, no heat in their legs. You always want to make sure that that they have a good line of fat over their ribs, that the ribs aren't protruding. Rhapsody being 26, she isn't going to be in the 100% body condition that Mummy would like her to be in, but she's an old gal and we do as best as that we can. You always want to look at the roundness of their rump, their belly, their stifles, do a general full-on check of your horse, making sure that their legs, nobody has any sores, nobody has any little skin issues. A lot of horses that are unblanketed and don't have the proper shelter that they need to stay dry. You want to make sure that they don't have any little scabs along your back, which is considered rain rot, and we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So allowing your horse to be nice and dry. A horse can keep themselves warm with their own body temperature, but if they have wet hair, their natural source of insulation doesn't work. So that's why we go to blankets. Keeps them nice and healthy, keeps them nice and warm. They serve many different purposes for if you're clipping, if you're needing a cooling out blanket for after an extensive work process. It's all really up to you and what the needs of your horse are. Every horse is different. So one thing that's very important during the winter or any of the months of the year is the intake of water that our horses drink. A horse at least drinks a minimum of 20 liters a day. In the summer months, it could be anywhere from 50 and over. A lot of times in the winter, our water buckets freeze over. We have horses that are reluctant to drink because either they don't like the color of that water bucket at that time, they don't like that how they have to push through the ice in their own water bucket. So some of the things that I do to help ensure that my horses stay hydrated and to make my job a little easier while I'm watering them on a daily basis. So every horse has their own individual water bucket outside, which is always clean. It's filled to the top. They also have another water bucket in their stalls or their shelters, so that allows them to dip their hay. I call it their dippy buckets. So they can get it as dirty and as grungy as they want because I dump it up to 2 times a day, scrub it out, ensures that they always have nice clean water to drink. Now what I do is I always have at least 110 liter water tubs that I keep full on a daily basis as well. And I know a lot of people don't have access to power in their barns, or they have to deal with frozen hoses or whatever the issue may be. So what I like to do is I'll fill as many of the large water tubs as I have. If my hose is frozen, I also have a 110 gallon water tank that I will either put in the back of my truck or my Ranger, and I will fill it up from the house, and that's how also I can ensure that I can get water up to my horses. So that was one of the best investments I ever purchased. Then I use these floating water heaters. Now, over my years of working in barns, I've noticed some horses, they will drink out of heated water buckets, some horses won't. But this way, then I can always ensure that I have thawed out water, whether I need to top up their stall waters, their paddock waters. Another thing that I do to ensure that they get extra hydration during the winter or even during the summer, I always take a very preventative action on the way I feed my horses. So during the winter, we have to worry about, once again, freezing, horses not drinking as much water as they normally would. So I actually will add in soaked feed. So if they would normally eat a 1 or a 2 meals a day of soaked feed, whether that consists of very many different types of soakable fibrous feed, which is either beet pulp, there's hay cubes that you can get, there's Fiber Max, which consists of a soy hull and a beet pulp. So I base my horse's diet on that, and I will actually decrease the amount of hay that I feed them, and I will span it from, you know, a 2 feedings a day, even up to 6. I know a lot of people don't have that added time that they can be out there, you know, chucking their horses hay and stuff like that. So what I'll do is I'll also split up their soaked feeds into 4 feeds as well. So every time they would get their hay feeding, they would get a bucket of soaked mash as well. So that's just making sure that they're getting the added moisture that they need, because during the winter, horses also don't like to move as much, which also slows down their circulation, their intestinal tract, which can lead to impaction colics. And as we know, colic can happen for many different reasons. So what is best is try to prevent it before it happens. Knowing your horse, knowing each horse as an individual, because you might have one horse that has completely different needs from the other one. So it's really knowing your horse and feeding them as an individual.